Hello everybody, it's Boo here, and today I've got a video that should be kind of interesting for you because we're going to be talking about a little known item that is the utility umbrella. A lot of people won't even have this item, let alone know what it does, because even when I researched this item, found out some information, a lot of it wasn't quite right. It's a really weird item, and today I want to tell you all about it. I want to tell you where to get it, what it does to the limits of my knowledge, and how to use it effectively. That's basically what I want to do, and then at the end we can say whether it's useful or not. So where do you get it first? Well, you have to go to Hammerlock, and if you go along here, the second house along this row has a man inside. He will give you, if you talk to him, he will give you one of the weather extending rocks, something like the heat rock or the damp rock, for example. And he'll only give you one a day for each of the weathers. So there's obviously sun, rain, hail, and sand. So you have to come to him 4 separate days. And when you come on the 4th day, he'll give you the last rock that you don't have, and also the utility umbrella, which is really cool. The in-game effect tells you that it's a hold item that protects the user from the effects of weather, but if only it was that simple. It's really not easy to tell what it does, because if we go and look at some examples, I thought one of the easiest things to implement would be it will protect the weather at least from being buffeted by either sand or hail, and automatically that's not the case. You still get buffeted by sand and hail if you hold the umbrella. I can kind of understand that, because that might come in like under the umbrella and still hit the Pokemon. It can kind of surround you and buffet you all the same, so sort of understand it, but it's a bit disappointing. Maybe they just didn't want it to overlap with the safety goggles too much, which already does that. So the next thing I assumed it would do would be to maybe prevent the user's attacks from being affected by sun or rain. By that I mean fire type attacks are weakened in rain and boosted in sun, and water type attack damage is weakened in sun and boosted in rain. So I thought that might be the case, and so I tried using it with a Drampar on a sun team to basically still be able to use Hydro Pump to take out opposing fire types that might cause sun teams problems. I could have obviously tried to use a Cloud9 Drampar, but at that point you're getting rid of your own sun, so it wouldn't make much sense. My Drampar did do a lot of damage with its Hydro Pump, but that's just because it's a powerful Drampar. Turns out when I tested it further with an Arctovish in the sun and in the rain, its Surf definitely did different amounts of damage to a Corviknight. In the sun it did less damage, in the rain it did a lot more damage, and that's while it's holding the utility umbrella. So it looks like your attacks are still affected by the sun and the rain. Upon further investigation, I found out that actually it's not your attacks that are affected. If you hold the utility umbrella, incoming attacks are no longer affected by sun and rain. So I tested this with a Noctowl holding the utility umbrella, not quite sure how it managed to do that without opposable thumbs, but it did. And the Wailmer was using Water Spouts. I tried it in the sun, I tried it in the rain. Wailmer's Water Spout did the same amount of damage in rain and sun. So basically it protects you, the user, from any changes that will be applied to incoming attacks in the weather, whatever the weather does. So that automatically is kind of a bit more situational, because it's not like your attacks are affected, so you have a little bit less control over this item. So the other thing I wanted to test was how moves interacted with the utility umbrella, and this is very inconsistent. So I found that Weather Ball still changes type. Ludicolo's Weather Ball changed into an ice type move in hail, despite holding the utility umbrella. So Weather Ball is affected by weather despite the utility umbrella. The other thing is Aurora Veil. So if you want to set up Aurora Veil, you have to have hail up, and then it gives you light screen and reflect. So I thought maybe holding the utility umbrella would ignore hail, and it would mean that Aurora Veil fails, but that's not the case. You can still use Aurora Veil while holding the utility umbrella. The last thing that I wanted to try was Solar Beam. And it turns out that in sun, while holding the utility umbrella, Solar Beam does require 2 turns. So you don't, normally in sun, if you use Solar Beam, you get to use it straight away because the sun's so bright. That's not the case with the utility umbrella. So it's really inconsistent. Some attacks are affected by weather still, some attacks are not affected by weather while holding the utility umbrella. This was by no means a comprehensive test. I haven't tested all attacks that might interact with weather, but just some of the most prominent ones. The last consideration was abilities, to see what abilities were affected. I did test Ice Body, probably not the most useful ability, and found that while holding the utility umbrella, Arctovish still recovers health with Ice Body. But there are a couple of really prominent abilities that are affected by Utility Umbrella, which comes to where I think Utility Umbrella probably has most use, but even then it is kind of situational, but less situational than all the other uses. So Utility Umbrella apparently can stop abilities like Solar Power and also Sand Rush, Swift Swim, Chlorophyll, or Slush Rush, all of the speed boosting abilities in the weather, which is kind of important because in a lot of competitive formats there are whole teams dedicated to using strategies around weather like that. So the way that I think Utility Umbrella could be used most effectively is tricking it onto an opponent so that they then ignore their own weather. I've got two examples of this. The first one is against Charizard. So Charizard with Solar Power is used quite a lot in the doubles format. It's a very powerful Pokemon when the sun goes up because it gets a Solar Power boost, it also gets the Fire type damage boost just from the sun, and it can hold another item like a Life Orb. Plus, it might also go for Solar Beams too. So if you trick a Utility Umbrella onto the Charizard, not only are you tricking away the Life Orb, but you're also preventing it from getting Solar Power boost to its moves, so you're significantly underpowering that Charizard. You have to bear in mind that it will still get the Sun boost to its Fire type moves, according to my testing, so that's a bit annoying. But if you want to hit it with Water type attacks in the Sun, it will take extra damage because the Sun won't weaken the Water type moves, which is pretty cool. And if it wants to go for a Solar Beam, it will take 2 turns to charge despite the Sun being up. So that is one way of neutering Solar Power Charizards. If you trick a Utility Umbrella onto it, it's not going to be half as good. So that's kind of cool. The other use is you can trick Weather Sweepers. So any of the Pokemon with the speed boosting abilities in weather. The example I've got here is Seismitoad in the rain. I've got Prankster Trick, so it will move before the Seismitoad has a chance to move. In the rain, Seismitoad would have been the fastest thing on this field, but because I can trick it the Utility Umbrella before it gets to move, I can then outspeed it with my Mr. Mime and take it out with a 4 times effective Freeze Dry, which is really, really cool and something that your opponents won't see coming at all. So those really are the only uses of Utility Umbrella that I can think of. They have a lot of swag and it's a massive gimmick, but you might throw your opponent off significantly if you can pull it off because no one expects this. A lot of people don't even know what the Utility Umbrella does. There's a massive caveat though. I don't think this is the best kind of trick item to use. You could always use the Lagging Tail, which makes the holder always move last. So that's useful regardless of if your opponent has a Weather Sweeper or not. If they've just got a very fast Pokemon, Trick Lagging Tail is still helpful. If they don't have a Weather Pokemon, Trick Utility Umbrella is completely useless. But if specifically you want to stop things like Charizard with Solar Power and other Weather Sweepers, then Utility Umbrella can provide some use there, I guess. Or if you just want to meme on your opponents, then this is the thing to use. So all in all, Utility Umbrella is kind of disappointing. I think there are loads more things that it could affect that would be more useful, that you could have a bit more control over. I think it should prevent your attacks from being affected by sun and rain instead of incoming attacks. Maybe it should do both. And also preventing Aurora Veil would have been really interesting because again, that would give you another way of using Trick Utility Umbrella because you could stop Aurora Veil from coming up. So all in all, kind of disappointing, but still can have some meme potential. That's going to be all from me. I hope you enjoyed this video about the Utility Umbrella. If you did, consider leaving a like and subscribing for more content. All that's left to be said is I've been Fu, you've been awesome, and hopefully see you next time. Goodbye!